blocked by Twitter. An EWTN News Nightly video from a pro-life rally last week in Philadelphia is restricted by the social media website. We investigate. Sunday celebration. An update on Catholics in Sri Lanka since the deadly Easter terror strikes. Medjugorje announcement. The Holy Father weighs in on the controversial Marian shrine in Bosnia. And the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima. We'll take you inside one of the most popular tourist sites for the faithful in the world. On EWTN News Nightly for Monday, May 13th, 2019. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you to those of you joining me from around the world for news from a Catholic perspective. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Social media censorship comes to News Nightly as Twitter limits distribution of a News Nightly video. Correspondent Jason Calvi posted his report about Friday's pro-life rally in Philadelphia as hundreds descended on the spot, Jason. And then what happened?
Well, so I've got some good news, Lauren. Twitter has just reinstated the video after we called and emailed with the social media giant today. But this is not a new complaint. Conservatives have complained that they've been targeted. The pro-life group Susan B. Anthony List has said some of their ads have been blocked. Today, the news becomes the news.
Friday, we took you to this Planned Parenthood clinic in Philly. It's the spot where State Representative Brian Sims shot this Twitter video.
Absolutely not. No, ma'am. Don't hide. Don't hide. You're publicly protesting women coming to a Planned Parenthood.
Friday, I tweeted my coverage of the rally. For many on Twitter, here's what pops up in place of the video. This media may contain sensitive material.
So I tried once again to share the original post and video. I added this comment, and right here is where that video and post should appear. What's it say? This tweet is unavailable. What's unavailable? The original story of the pro-life rally.
And my Twitter followers confirmed they couldn't see the original video. This tweet showed like this till we went through several steps to display it. Not sure what was so sensitive. Twitter's rules list a few categories of photos and videos that could be deemed sensitive: graphic violence and adult content, images of a person's death, and intimate media. Let's see if we can spot any of that in our Friday story. We asked the Lincoln Network, a conservative organization that deals with tech and politics, what may have happened to my story on the Brian Sims controversy.
There's also the chance that what's happened is that the algorithm picked it up because of a lot of the tweets that were being fired off. So anything that kind of mentions him is starting to get flagged by the algorithm as potentially, restricted material, and then got escalated to actual human being, an actual content moderator, and that person may have then stepped in and actually, flagged your tweet.
While we did speak with Twitter on the phone today, we still don't have an answer to why this particular story was deemed sensitive. Now, here on the Hill, a Twitter exec recently testified that sometimes posts get caught in the system, and they've also blocked some pro-abortion posts as well. Lauren?
Well, just like the movie Unplanned, we've seen this before. That was a pro-life movie, and you have to wonder whether or not you're going to get an explanation. I'm sure you're going to stay right on that. Thank you so much, Capitol Hill correspondent Jason Calvi. China announced higher tariffs Monday on $60 billion worth of American goods. It's in retaliation for President Donald Trump's Friday decision to impose $200 billion in tariffs on Chinese products. The trade war has sent stocks plunging. President Trump on Twitter said, "I say openly to President Xi and all of my many friends in China that China will be hurt very badly if you don't make a deal, because companies will be forced to leave China for other countries. Too expensive to buy in China. You had a great deal, almost completed, and you backed out." President Trump greeted Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban at the White House today, calling him a respected man. The Prime Minister never visited the White House under the Bush or Obama administrations. White House correspondent Mark Irons reports. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Lauren. The abortion rate has fallen in Hungary since its conservative leader took power in 2010, and the country now is promoting family growth. But Viktor Orban's administration is admittedly anti-migration. He takes a Hungary-first approach to politics, something that President Trump can relate to.
Probably, like me, a little bit controversial, but that's okay.
Today at the White House, President Trump finding common ground with Hungary's prime minister.
We are proud to stand together with the United States on fighting against illegal migration.
Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been in power since 2010. In his State of the Nation this year, he called on Hungarians to have more children. To encourage growth, the country offers a lifetime income tax exemption for women who give birth and raise at least 4 kids.
We have a national consensus about the support of families, the importance of family values.
Katalin Novak, Hungary's Minister of State for Family Affairs, spoke with News Nightly in March. Novak says the country values its Christian culture. But the country's conservative ruling government has received criticism for the way it handles immigration.
We have a policy which is anti-migration. That's true. We don't see
And
migration.
you're admitting that.
Yes.
Hungary has tightened its immigration enforcement and security policies, even adding a law making it illegal for Hungarians to help refugees seeking asylum in the country. These pictures taken last week show migrants who were denied asylum, a pregnant woman among those expelled. In recent years, European countries have seen a flood of refugees flee from the Middle East. Rather than open its borders to newcomers, Hungary is placing resources in its native people and encouraging growth within. Today, the Prime Minister of Hungary voiced support for Christian communities around the world. President Trump thanked him for that. But before this meeting even began today, bipartisan lawmakers had shown concern in a letter sent to the president over what they called an erosion of democracy in Hungary and the country's close ties to Russia. Lauren?
White House correspondent Mark Irons. Thank you, Mark. At least 6 people, including a Catholic priest, were killed during Mass yesterday in Burkina Faso. The attack occurred in the town of Dablo in the northern part of the African nation. Gunmen reportedly burst into the church and started shooting at the beginning of Mass. It was the second attack on a Catholic church in that region this year. Catholics in Sri Lanka celebrate their first Sunday Mass since the deadly terror attacks on Easter. Military forces provided security and attendees were required to show identification, and they were searched. Sunday Mass had been suspended for fear of another strike by Islamic extremists. More than 250 people were killed in those Easter strikes. A cardinal climbed down a manhole Saturday to help restore electricity to a building in Rome. That building temporarily houses hundreds of homeless people. Cardinal Konrad Krajewski, who is an aide to Pope Francis for charitable missions, says he went down the manhole and flipped on the power switch. Government officials say the building has about $300,000 worth of unpaid electric bills. Pilgrims in Medjugorje are reacting to news Pope Francis has given the faithful his okay to make pilgrimages to the Bosnian shrine. This woman from Italy hopes people visit and calls the site a holy place. In 1981, 6 children and teenagers said they saw apparitions of Mary on a hill in the village. Last year, 1 million people flocked to pray there. Father Paul Hafner, a lecturer at the Pontifical Gregorian University and the author of The Mystery of Mary, joins us from Rome. Father, the Vatican has not authenticated these visions yet. A commission set up by Pope Benedict XVI is still studying them. So why do you think Pope Francis is giving pilgrims the green light to visit?
Lauren, Pope Francis is very kindly and generously given this green light for pastoral reasons, because he sees that the fruits of pilgrimages to Medjugorje are resulting in conversions, in a greater devotion in the Christian life, in devotion to Our Lady. But he's not saying a final, this is an approved apparition yet.
All right, so can you give us a snapshot of these, I guess, alleged apparitions and the controversy around them? Every year, millions of people still visit this site.
Lauren, the apparitions, as I've described in my other book, Daily, Sing to Mary, which deals with different feast days and apparitions of Our Lady. And on the 24th of June, I've explained that over a period of years, 6 visionaries have had messages from Our Lady. And I think these visions and messages actually still continue. I think the basic takeaway message of Medjugorje is Our Lady of Peace. Our Lady is calling for peace, but not a type of peace which is just the absence of war. It's a peace which starts in the heart and in the soul and is a fruit of conversion, therefore turning away from sin. It's not a political solution or an economic solution. It's a divine gift. I think in the local language the word is mere, peace. That's the basic message of Medjugorje.
Father, why is there so much interest in this area of the world?
Oh, thank you for asking, Lauren. Because that area was a war-torn area, if you remember. It's, I believe, Croatia, which is part of the ex-Yugoslavia, and for many years there were terrible wars down there. Our Lady prophesied effectively that there would be wars, just as she did in Africa, in other apparitions, and she's tried to bring peace. And that requires from us as women and men of today to cooperate with her gift, to accept the gift of her Son, which is a gift of peace.
Thank you so much, Father Paul Hafner of the Pontifical Gregorian University and the author of The Mystery of Mary.
And daily, daily sing to Mary.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Lauren. Take care.
Bye-bye. Coming up, the advice Pope Francis gave new priests yesterday at the Vatican, and how Catholic Relief Services is helping those affected by the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip.
Unicamente intenti a piacere Dio e non a voi stessi.
Pope Francis ordained 19 new priests yesterday at the Vatican. Their ages ranged from the mid-20s to 46. They hailed from Italy, Croatia, Peru, Haiti, and Japan. In his homily, the Holy Father told them to never tire of being merciful. And a Catholic humanitarian agency says it is thankful for the ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinian Sunni Islamist group Hamas. It's the governing party in the Gaza Strip. Now, if the fighting resumes, Catholic Relief Services says the already dire humanitarian situation will push Gaza to the brink. The latest bout of fighting earlier this month killed 25 Palestinians, including 15 civilians, and was the worst since the deadly war between Israel and Hamas in 2014. Joining me now is Bill O'Keefe, Executive Vice President for Mission and Mobilization at Catholic Relief Services. Bill, welcome back to our broadcast.
Thanks so much, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here.
You say if the fighting resumes, Palestinians in Gaza will be pushed to the brink. What does that mean specifically?
So there are 2 million people in Gaza, and the unemployment rate is 50%. 2/3 of the population is on food assistance. The fighting obviously breaks up the ability of organizations to provide food assistance and other assistance, but unfortunately, already restrictions by the United States government and cutbacks in funding have had a serious impact. And as you would imagine, people who are already suffering when there's active conflict just suffer more.
We'll get to that in just a minute, but I want to talk about some of the numbers here. There are 1,300 or fewer Christians who remain in the Gaza Strip, 50,000 Christians approximately in the West Bank, and maybe, I don't know, about 17,000 we've read in several reports who are Catholic. Now, Bethlehem and Nazareth were once overwhelmingly Christian, now have Muslim majorities. But for you, for Catholic Relief Services, this isn't just about helping Christians.
That's right. We're helping people of all religions. But the Christian community really has suffered because of the humanitarian situation. In Gaza right now, Christians benefit from health services that used to be supported by the United States government. As a result of an administrative review that the government has begun about a year ago, that assistance has really stopped.
Well, you say that it's being withheld, they're reviewing aid. What would you like to see the government do What role do you think politics plays in all of this?
So the government needs to help people who are suffering, and that's something that the American people consistently ask our government, the richest government in the world, to do. In this particular situation, there's a lot of politics and trying to advance peace, but the truth of the matter is desperate people are not going to be more conducive to peace. And so we think that it will advance our nation's long-term interests in a more peaceful Middle East to continue to provide assistance to people.
Well, as part of the current ceasefire, it was reported that a Qatari envoy, Mohammed al-Ahmadi, arrived in Gaza with $30 million in cash, meant for all of the needy families. That's a lot of money, but is that enough to make a difference in the life of an average family there?
So the great news about U.S. assistance is it mostly goes to organizations like Catholic Relief Services and other respected organizations that actually do make sure that the assistance gets to real people who need it. CRS was providing assistance to 60,000 people and then jobs to 2,000 or 3,000 people every quarter.
In Gaza or Gaza and the West Bank or just Gaza?
Just Gaza. And what happens with suitcases of cash, who knows? The advantage of the U.S. assistance is there are systems in place, there are credible organizations, and it frankly is good for the perception in the Middle East of America, America's role in the world, and creating a positive sense of our values.
Well, Bill O'Keefe, thank you so much for all the good work that you and Catholic Relief Services do. You're the Executive Vice President for Mission and Mobilization. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Laura.
Up next, we introduce you to Rachel Haynes, who says her faith helped her survive abuse from a former U.S. gymnastics team doctor. And on the feast of Our Lady of Fatima, we'll take you to the shrine dedicated to her in Portugal. Former sports doctor Larry Nassar was sentenced last year to decades in prison. Hundreds of girls and women said he sexually molested them under the guise of medical treatment. Nassar was a team doctor for USA Gymnastics, which trains Olympians. EWTN contributor Colin Flynn introduces us to one of the abuse survivors. It's her first TV interview, and she says her faith helped her through the ordeal.
How did it come to be, Rachel, that you were first treated by Larry Nassar?
So I tore my hamstring right around 12, 13, and I went to go see our team doctor, which was Larry, and in the very first meeting with us, it was in the back room of his gym, of our gym. It was in this equipment room. He said, okay, I'm gonna do an internal manipulation on you in the very first meeting.
And when he brought you in for his, as what he called treatment, you're on your own, or are you with your parents, or?
We were with the many other gymnasts that needed to see him that night.
So you'd all be in the room at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't at any stage sit down and talk to your parents and say, this is what I'm going to do with your daughter, this is what I think she needs?
No curtain, no door, no consent.
I know you trusted him because he was a doctor, but was your mind in any way thinking something's not right here, this shouldn't be happening?
My body reacted. You know, I think when you're in an uncomfortable situation, you start to get the sweat, the clammy hands, and I was feeling that. I remember my back would kind of cold sweat when this was happening, but my head had to kind of convince myself it's okay. He's a doctor.
And when you left there, what were you thinking after your first treatment?
I just remember thinking, okay, the first treatment, I was like, okay, that's done. I don't have to do that again. And then when I came back and it became a consistent thing, I was like, oh, I can't wait till my injury is healed so I don't have to do this anymore.
And how long did it go on for?
Well, I tore my hamstring, and that lasted, it's like a 6 to 8 month recovery, and then shortly after that I fractured my back. So
for 6 to 8 months, would you see him regularly?
3 times a week.
3 times a week?
Mm-hmm.
And the same internal manipulation?
Yes, every time.
And then you had a separate injury then?
Yes.
It wasn't your hamstring anymore. What was it then the second time?
Then I fractured my back, yeah, and the treatments continued.
Even though separate injury, separate part of the body,
and
same treatment?
Yeah, and that was the first big red flag.
When did you first hear that other girls had made allegations against them?
Shortly after that, the news articles started popping up on my social media, and I remember just kind of really scrolling past them like, oh, that's not right. It's Larry, you know, and I was still for him at that point, even after what he had done and the way he had talked to me, I was still on his side. And it wasn't until somebody came out with a detailed description of the abuse and why it was considered abuse that I was like, if that's abuse, then I was abused. If she's a victim, I'm a victim too.
And then what was going through your head then?
I remember just having to lay in my bed and look at the ceiling for a long time. A few hours went by and I just had to stare at the ceiling and kind of accept that I was a victim. It's a process that's not easy, but it was basically somebody telling me and proving me, you can't deny it anymore.
And you said in your victim impact statement, Larry, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
That was right out in front of him in court.
Yeah.
Do you forgive him?
I do.
After
I forgive
everything he did to you, and when you saw the scale of the case, I mean, how many girls that came forward? Over 100?
Yeah. It's not my position to forgive him for what he did to others. I control my forgiveness for what he did to me, and that's what I forgive. I forgive him for using me. I don't forgive him for using anybody else because that's not my right to judge. But I need to move on from what he did to me, and so the first step in doing that is letting him know that I forgive him.
Was that hard to come to?
Oh. It's almost as hard as accepting you're a victim is realizing I need to let this go. I can't punish him a way that somebody else can, a way that my God can. And so I can't hold this above him because there's nothing I can do that compares to what my God can do.
For other victims who might be watching this now, not just of Larry, but
right.
abuse victims around the world who maybe don't have the immense courage that you have, what would you say to them?
First of all, I think it's important to know that you're not alone. Victims out there need to know that their experience is unique to them, but they are not alone fighting this battle. They are not the only ones going through this feeling, that there is a community of people ready and willing to support, inspire, and empower them to get to their level of healing too. It's never your fault. And you need to know that and accept that moving forward, that you don't deserve this, but you deserve to heal.
Our thanks to Colin Flynn for that very important piece about people who are victims and forgiveness. Today is the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima. 102 years ago, 3 shepherd children reported apparitions of the Virgin Mary in a little town in central Portugal. And now the site is one of the most popular and well-known Marian shrines in the world. Tonight, we take you there. Pilgrims from all over the world visit Fatima every year, and many make their way to the Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary on their knees. Between May and October of 1917, the Virgin Mary appeared here to 3 shepherd children. A statue marks the spot where the apparitions took place. Our Lady told Lucia on the left and her cousins Francisco and Jacinta on the right to pray the Rosary every day for world peace, repent, and make sacrifices to convert sinners. In 2017, on the 100th anniversary of the first apparition, Pope Francis canonized Francisco and Jacinta. Cardinal Sean O'Malley of Boston was present.
Such a short life, they achieved great sanctity and holiness, and the fact that the Blessed Mother chose them is very significant. So I think there's a great lesson in this, and all the saints' lives are sermons for us, but in these children it's a reminder that how precious children are.
Francisco and Jacinta both died before age 12. Lucia, the third visionary, who later became a nun, passed away in 2005 at the age of 97. Her cause for canonization is open, and the Vatican is investigating her life. According to the shrine, in 2017, on the occasion of the centenary, more than 9 million pilgrims took part in celebrations. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, to all of you around the world, thank you for watching. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Let's keep in touch online. Follow me at Lauren Ashburn on Twitter and at Lauren Ashburn EWTN on Facebook. Good night, and God bless you.